Hey everybody, it's Julia, also known as Sci-Fi Child, here at the Drop Stitches podcast. Thanks for joining me today. Today is June 18th, I think, Father's Day in the United States. Happy Father's Day to any fathers watching. I know mine's not. He doesn't do this kind of thing. That's okay. Well, thank you for joining me. I hope you'll have fun today with me and listening to me ramble about what I've been up to and what I plan to do soon. Cheers. I'm having a fruit smoothie today. It's pretty good, actually. Though the color isn't great. I tried for you, Ooh, blueberry. It has banana, pear, blueberries, a little bit of sage, and some fresh ginger in it, and some coconut water to help it go down. And like I said, the flavor's pretty good. Although I expected it looks better on the camera. We'll go with that. I was going for some of those beautiful colors you get out of blueberries when you use them in a smoothie. It's almost there. Probably needs more of them. Because there's a whole banana and a whole pear in it, so that, they kind of bring in their own color, which isn't very attractive, but that's okay. Sometimes it's all about the taste. Well, so let's see. What if it's been a while since I've talked to you guys. I'm sorry about that. There's been a lot of things to do around here since it's summertime now, and there's endless things that need to be taken care of, like getting the chicken coop set up and getting the grass mowed. Who would have thought? Getting things in the ground. I did my garden pretty late. I'm doing this super lazy gardening this year, in that I just went out and bought some seedlings, which I pretty much never do. For vegetables anyway. I'll buy lots and lots of other kinds of plants, but for vegetables I almost always grow them from seed. But I never got them started this year, so I did start some squash seeds, but started them pretty late, so I don't know what we'll get out of them, but it's okay because I scraped those seeds out of squash that I bought, so it's not like I have much investment in them. But they're growing. It's good enough. So, since we last talked, I finished a blanket, which I can't actually show you because it's already gone to its new owner. And I'm trying to get it to show you the color. It's kind of a dark purple and a lavender purple and a white. You'll just have to use your imagination there. And that went to my friends who were having the twins, and I'll just show you also a quick snap of the two blankets together. Now you've seen the blue and yellow one that shows the color a teeny bit better. You'll recall that the blue and yellow one was the leaping stripes and blocks, I think is what the pattern is. Which I finished with a backwards single crochet. And the other one is just a shell blanket. I linked mine to a Lion brand pattern, which is free. They're both free. So if you're looking to do one similar, you can. I have them both on Ravel, where you can have a look at those and get to the patterns if you want. And I think the Lion brand, they finished their blanket by doing a round of single crochet to set a nice edge, and then doing a shell around the border, which looks really cute. Since these were going together, I just did another same thing, a round of single crochet and then a round of backwards single crochet, like the other blanket. So they kind of look like a set a little bit. I originally was planning to do not necessarily the same pattern, but basically the 2-3 color blankets with only one color different. So it would have been white and yellow, and then either, in one case it's the blue, and in one case it's the yellow, right? And the purple, whatever. And then I decided it was a little bit shocking with the purple. I thought the dark purple and the light purple would have just been a bit washed out. So I didn't do it that way. I went with, 3 different color combinations for them, but that's fine. I think they were pleased with them. And then also I did a quick project for one of the other folks that was expecting. This is a polar fleece owl, and you can see he's got little wings there, and and he's stuffed in he's about as wide as a sheet of paper, because that's what I drew him on, and then I cut out the little pieces on the paper, and then cut out the pieces on the fleece and appliqued them on using a zigzag stitch, and then put the pieces together, stuffed them, seamed them up, and took him on to work. And I think she was pleased with him as well, because she likes owls, so that was fun for her. And I was pleased with myself because I got 4 baby gifts done. Also, this past month, I've shipped off the baby blanket I did, a few months back, the Grand Canyon one, I think is what I called it, to my niece, and she probably has gotten it by now, but she's more of a send a thank you card than a call type, which is fine with me. So, but the point being, I haven't gotten confirmation yet. That's okay. I just worry about, where things are in the post office. It's all, because I'm paranoid that way. Let's see, what else? So let me check my notes here. Sorry. That was all for finished objects. That's what I thought. So I'm going to roll into stuff I'm working on. And I'm going to start with spinning. Spinning has been heavily on my mind lately because Tour de Fleece is coming up, and I've got to obsess endlessly over what I'm going to spin. And meanwhile, I need to clean off my wheels, and in the process of cleaning off my wheels, invariably I will start new things. So it's a little bit of a fail, admittedly. Sorry, pardon me. All right, so the first thing I had to talk about was these singles here, which are about more of a turquoise than they are that electric blue, which is what my monitor looks like. Anyway, this is from some Hobbledehoy batlings that she did as part of her, I think it was part of her Nerd Out collection, or whatever you call it. And this was the Patronus bats, and it's only 2 ounces. I only got 1 bag. Surprise. Anyway, there's the tags that came in it. There was a postcard too. I don't know what I did with it. I think there was specifically a postcard that had a color picture on it. I mean, she always sends a postcard, but I think she had one special for these that was Harry Potter themed, but I haven't the slightest idea where I put it. Anyway, so yeah, that's Hobbledehoy fibers on the top there, and she has an Etsy site. That's where I normally order from her. That may actually go directly to the Etsy site. I've never tried. Anyway, so the singles are done, and to be quite honest, I started these months ago and then stopped working on them. So probably last fall. I went through this period earlier this year where I really wasn't spinning at all. And so these got neglected. And consequently, I honestly think that when I started working on these and when I ended with these, the singles are not the same weight. So my original intent had been to chain ply these. I don't think I'm going to do that anymore because I think I'm going to end up with singles that are a plied yarn that's significantly different weight on one end versus the other, which is a giant pestilence to work with. So instead, what I think I'm going to do is just put these on the rigid head of loom and weave them into a scarf as they are. But another option might be to just ply them with something else, either some silk thread or just some other singles like something black perhaps, and just make a marled result, and then it'll probably not be as noticeable that the singles are not consistent from one end to the other. This bobbin that it's on, this is one of my Kromski bobbins from my mazurka, which I'll show you in a second. They don't make the mazurka anymore, but they make other spinning wheels. And also, much to my sadness, you'll notice, see that bearing, I guess you call it there. The older bobbins on Kromski's had brass bearings. The newer ones have plastic. They do not perform the same. Now, if you're not spinning fine singles, then fine meaning like singles that are intended for fingering or less once plied, it probably won't matter as much. But for me, I use my mazurka exclusively to spin fine weight. Exclusively. And so the extra drag makes a difference to me. So I'm very protective of my few bobbins with brass bearings because they work better for me. I do have a few with the, actually I don't think it's plastic. I don't know what it is. It's some kind of composite and I don't like it. I do use them occasionally when I want to rip through something else or ply, which I don't do very often on that wheel because I usually ply on my Akerworks wheel or on my Clems, which we saw last week or month. Sorry. Anyway, let me set this aside, and then I'll show you what I've currently got on the Kromski. So currently I'm working on, I wanted to have something, I usually keep my mazurka in front of the TV, and we don't spend a lot of time in front of the TV, which is another reason why like it just tends to get ignored. What was the point of that? Oh, the point of that was that as soon as I finished those, I wanted to have something else because I didn't particularly want to bring my knitting in for some reason. So I started on this, which from Hilltop Cloud, a blend, and I haven't the slightest idea what I'm doing with it. I'm just spinning it, and I'm spinning it a little thicker, which is not a natural process for me on the mazurka. So it's a little bit of a struggle just because I'm struggling against myself, not against the fiber. But it's a lovely, it's a little more red than it looks in there, but you get the general idea that it's a very deep, rich shade. I think that, does it say on here? Well, Gotland wool is naturally colored, tends to be a gray shade, and for some reason I think that I recall the listing saying that this had black suri in it, so it's got some depth to it. That's about half the fiber. The other half is laying on the table in front of the TV. But why don't we take a quick look at the mazurka? Hold on to your lunch. I'm going to move you. Let's see if we can get it to show it to us. There we go. That is the mazurka. It's a small castle wheel. And you can see it has some little fancy action on the drive wheel there. Whee! Okay, make you feel upside down. That's enough of that. Maybe I'll try picking up the wheel. It's a smallish wheel, but it's not small, okay? It's a standard height wheel. And it's mad at me now because I'm messing with it. There we go. There we go. It does come with a very simple distaff, which I don't have on it right now because I don't use it, and it frankly just therefore gets in my way. And I use it with a crochet cotton drive band. This is a very, very simple modification that you can do to any wheel, and it will change the control that you have with it. For me, it makes it easier for me to spin fine without fighting the wheel. It's something I heard about in one of the interweave videos. I don't know if it was the Margaret Stove video, like spin for lace, or if it was one of the other ones. It's been a long time. I've been using this particular wheel this way for a very long time. This is this is the first wheel I ever bought, but originally I ran it with the flax band that it came with, which was fine. It was great for learning. And then I had a stretchy band on it. And if you expect to spin fine yarns, you just can't do it with a stretchy band. It just won't work because you can't control the tension and the take up adequately with it. And I do run this in double drive. This particular wheel can be converted to Scotch tension, but I've actually never spun on a Scotch tension. Not truly. I have a few wheels that kind of mimic it, that are kind of bobbin lead wheels, but not truly. Anyway, so that's what that wheel looks like. Trying to remember how long I don't know how long I've had it even. Maybe 12 or 15 years, something like that. I don't even know how long they've not been making them. I just found out a couple of years ago that they weren't making them anymore. But in my opinion, it's the best wheel that they ever made. It's the best model. I've encountered some of the others, and they have some other castle wheels, which are perfectly functional wheels. But let's see, I'm trying to remember the name of the model that's closest to this. It has a slightly bigger drive wheel. It's of similar height. I can't remember right now what it's called. The drive wheel isn't as ornate, but it's not the Fantasia. It's not the one that was built to be kind of a modern looking wheel. It's another one that's supposed to look kind of traditional, but it is a castle design. Now, I think they still make that one. And I've encountered that wheel and I didn't like it immediately. One of the things that they did with this one is that there's a tension screw in the back that raises the back of the mother of all the flyer up, which adds tension on the drive band. But at the same time, they have in the front another worm screw, which you can use to level the flyer. And this is important, again, for spinning fine, maybe not so much for spinning heavier weights, but for spinning fine, you need to be able to keep the flyer level, or else the bobbin itself creates drag because it's pushing down on the front. And so it's going to it's going to change the amount of speed and the consistency of it all by itself. So it will cause you to fight the wheel if you have to tighten the wheel a lot in the back. So I don't think it's a very good design. The mazurka, however, is a very good design in my opinion, and we've always gotten along well, particularly since I changed to a crochet cotton drive band. And the best part about a crochet cotton drive band is that it's super easy to replace because you can buy a whole roll of that stuff for nothing. And I have used that on other wheels as well. Though having said that, some wheels actually do quite well with the stretchy drive band that I was boo-pooing for this one. So my Clem's wheel actually has a stretchy drive band on it, and I don't think I would use it any other way. I love it. Well, that's not true. I might try it with like a kitchen twine drive band. The way I use it, I would want a heavy drive band on it because I want to have some grip. That's enough blah 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 about that. Moving on, what else have I been up to? So on the subject of the Clem's Modern, I did finish the rest of the singles that are looking a little dusty. I can't remember which was the second, which was the first. That's probably the first. So the last time I showed you this and I showed you that wheel, I showed you a finished bobbin. And I quickly did the second within a few days of when we talked. And as a reminder, pardon me, I need to make crinkly noises. I know that some of you are annoyed by that as much as I like the noise. Some of you find it annoying. So it's Gnomespun, and it is a Dorset. And as I've recently gushed about Dorset, you all know that I like it, so I won't repeat that. Anyway, so this was something I pulled out of stash at some point. I don't know when I got it. I do like Gnomespun because he does work with a lot of interesting breeds, in my opinion. So it's not all merino. Not that merino and targhee and so on aren't good things to work with. They're lovely in their way, but I like to try different things too. And so I always, when I ever see him, I always try to buy at least something because I want to support that behavior. He also dyes some interesting yarns sometimes. He had a down wool sock yarn made at one point. I don't know if he still has any of it. That was a few years ago. Anyway, so those two are finished. Most likely what will happen is they will stay sitting here. I always tend to let my singles sit a while before I apply them, partly out of laziness and partly so that they kind of set a little bit so I don't have to fight them, trying to, ply back on themselves when I apply. So most likely what will happen is these will sit around being bored. And then when Tour de Fleece starts, I will apply a bunch of things. And this will be one of them. I tend to do that. I'll explain why in a minute. All right. And then I started working on a Babydoll blend. See, it's all fuzzy and whatnot. I'm not trying to control it. Sometimes with down wools, it's best to just let them do your thing, man. Just do your thing. It's fine. And then, so it might look a little sloppy to you now, but once it's applied, it won't really be visible. Trust me. Once it puffs up around itself, it'll even out enough and result in a nice, lovely puffy yarn. And again, you can see that's on a Clem's bobbin. And this is a blend of it's all Babydoll. It's two things. It's a bit of naturally colored sort of dark gray brown wool from my friends at Sweetwater Farm. And also, and I have, if you're interested, let me know. I have plenty of that roving. And then the other thing is I took some white roving, just a little bit, and dyed it with some Brazil wood that I'd had left over from some yarn that I dyed. Like the dye liquor, I still had dye liquor. So I threw that in there and dyed it. And it turned out, it's not very pink. It's not like a vibrant pink. Like the yarn came out of vibrant pink, but this was the exhaust of the dye bath, keep in mind. So, you know, like it was kind of, and I'm not even sure that I mordanted the fiber, to be honest. I seriously don't recall, but it came out like kind of a dusty rose color. And then I took that little bit. It was only a couple ounces, and then this dark Babydoll, and just blended them all together on the carder, and out popped a mass of fluffy bats. And I still have the other half of that to go. Here's one. There are a couple here. And I'm not bothering to pull these in the roving. I'm just kind of spinning off and they're doing whatever. So I need to get on with spinning that other half before I forget what I was doing. Like the Patronus. Plus I want to use my, I want to use that wheel actively in some Tour de Fleece stuff. Anyway, let me take a quick look at my notes. Okay. So before I move on to bore you with Tour de Fleece, let me just talk about some other works in progress. So this is a start to a pattern called Knit Me Baby One More Time, and this is by Lyrical Knits. Mary Aranella, I think. If I remember, I could be saying her name wrong too. Sorry. Anyway, Lyrical Knits. And she's doing a sweater along right now, which runs, I don't remember if it was through the end of June or through the end of July. But going on right now, and you could do any one of her sweater patterns. This is a new one that she did, and it was free for the first day, so I snagged it then. And let's see, I wanted to do another sweater that was set in sleeve, but top down and contiguous. And so that's part of the reason why I did this. I already had a pattern of hers that I've been meaning to knit for a while. But I decided to go ahead and do this one because I wanted to do that. And I've only done one other top-down set-in sleeve before, and it was quite different in the way that it went about shaping the shoulder line and the top of the sleeves. So I'm not going to talk about it in great detail because it's her pattern and it's her styling, and I recommend you try the pattern if you're interested in learning some new and unique ways, and it is a unique way. When you first get started with the sweater, like it doesn't even look like a sweater. It's like what, and not that it's hard. It's just odd, and you can see a little bit of it here that it's some funky short row action going on there, but it seems to have worked. I mean, the sleeves look believable. I must admit, though, the last time I had this thing on, it was only about this long. So, but it seemed like it was fine then. We'll see what it looks like after it's all finished and washed, right? You can never quite trust a merino yarn, but anyway. I have made some modifications to it. Notably, I made the neckline deeper. This had a shallower neckline. So this, I mean, it looks enormous now, but once there's ribbing on it, it will be a little more reasonable. But it'll be a lower neckline. And I think I altered the sleeve shaping a little bit in here to lengthen it, not because I'm tall, but because I didn't want it up in my armpit, which is where I thought it was going to end up. But again, I could be terribly wrong. We'll see what happens after I wash it. And then I also modified the way she did the color. So in hers, you come down and you switch from the first color around here to the second and third color, which are striped the rest of the way through. And on the sample original sample she did, that's very subtle because these two colors are really close together, and then the top is a different color. So I'm kind of off the range doing something different with the colors, and that's pretty minor. Let's face it. And additionally, hers was a short sleeve. I might make mine 3/4. Haven't decided yet. We'll see once I get the body done. And the yarns that I'm using are, can you see in there? You can't see in there. It's all dark and whatnot. I'm working with this color right now, and that's what the top was. And you could even see in the sweater, they are fairly close. This one's a bit more green. I need to get a better camera, because every time I show you guys something, I'm like, that's not what color it is. Well, this is kind of it reads kind of almost like a teal, but not quite. I don't have a good name for that color. And then this is a medium blue kind of color. And these are MarigoldJen yarns, and it's her merino nylon sock yarn base. And it is, I'm peering at the tag right now. They are superwash good. So if worse comes to worse, I can put it in the dryer for a few minutes and bring the shape back to where I want it. Anyway, so those are the color names. And again, that is MarigoldJen on Etsy. Incidentally, I originally bought these colors to do that test knit that I did for Laura Smoot. And then since it was going to be a booth sample, I thought, I suggested to MarigoldJen that she should pick some colors she wants to showcase. And so she did. And I'm happy we did that, because I got to see that awesome green. I don't know if any of you saw that thing at Maryland Sheep and Wool in her booth. But it had that was the one that I had behind me that one time. But anyway, the forest green that was on the bottom of that was just the most beautiful green. I'd almost like to knit a sweater out of that stuff. But anyway, so I still had this yarn. So I thought this was the perfect opportunity to just break that out and use it. I'd already caked it up and everything. So that was a time saver. Let me get this out of my way. Oh, must talk about my awesome bag. KnitSpinFarm bag. See, in her cute little tag. Look how fun that is with the loud chickens. It's quite a bit brighter in person. A very electric highlighter, yellow, green, kind of post-it note color almost. I love it. She makes the most fun bags. I think that's a medium-sized bag. Yeah, it's the perfect size for 2 bags of yarn, or 2 balls of yarn. You could probably put 3 in it. But having 2 100-gram balls in there and plus a project, it makes it full without being stuffed, and I like it. Okay, so I've also invested some hard-earned time on, oh man, and I stopped it in the middle of the row again. All right, so let me just, hang on a second, let me just move these stitches over so we can take a good look at it. So this, what I'm about to show you is my robin shawl in Ultra Alpaca, Berroco Ultra Alpaca DK that I've been working on off and on for months, shamefully, because I ignore it and don't work on it at home, basically. And the yarns that I'm using for this was left over from a baby blanket that I did last year, I think it was. Yeah, last year about this time. And I had a full skein each, actually a full skein of the darkest color, a skein plus a little bit of the white, and just a little bit left of the other contrast color. So there we go. I don't think I put a progress keeper on it the last time I showed it to you, so I don't know how much it's grown since then, but I think it was over here somewhere. Anyway, so that's where it is now. Getting a good size on it, but guess what? That's all the white I have left. I don't think that's enough. I don't think that it's going to be broad enough with that little bit of yarn left. I don't know. Maybe I should put it on a longer needle so I can really see how wide it is. If I fuss with it, I'm probably going to knock it off the needle. I don't know. It might be 5 feet wide. Maybe it is big enough. Well, the thing is, I'm out of yarn. This was supposed to be a Stash Buster project. I really don't want to have to go and track down some replacement yarn. Although I did already look on Ravelry. And although several people have this exact color, I didn't go as deep to see if it was the same dye lot. It's not white. It's like a cream. So there was a dye lot. I really don't want to get more yarn, because then I'll just have more yarn that I'll have to do something with. I don't know. And I still have plenty of this left. So I haven't decided yet. Oh, chapstick. Pardon me. I don't know what I'm going to do. I can tell you one thing, though. I'm done working on this thing. It's a very interesting pattern. As I've said before, it's entirely constructed of short rows, decreasing short rows as you go across any one wedge in order to create that wedge shape. And it's a really neat idea. And it's a neat effect and all of that, but I don't know. I'm done with it. So I might just call it quits on that score alone. Just say it's big enough. We're done. So it is. So I haven't decided yet. I think I'll put it in timeout again. Decide that later. I'm gonna play basketball. Yes. Okay. What should we talk about? Let's talk about Tour de Fleece. Okay. Are you doing Tour de Fleece? You should totally do Tour de Fleece. If you spin or you would like to learn, this is awesome. Do Tour de Fleece. So all the days that the Tour de France is riding, the objective is for you to try to spin. And there are rest days. And it's, none of it's hardcore rules. So if you can't spin every day, that's fine too. Everybody sets their own goals, and there's tons of teams that you can join that do, they have different themes, and some of them are just the theme is like we all live in this area or whatever. And so the themes vary, and so you can pick things that work for you, set your own goals, and have a go. But it can be exciting because there's kind of this festival atmosphere to it. You know, everybody's posting daily all this stuff that they do and this stuff that they made, and lots and lots of pretty things and interesting ideas. Sometimes you see some wild art bats, you know, going on, and a lot of the teams have prizes too, and prizes are always awesome, right? Prizes are good. So I'm not doing a team. I don't even know how many of my viewers are spinners, so I know a few of you are, but so I'm not having to go with that, but I'll tell you who I'm supporting in this tour, and talk a little bit about what I'm planning to spin. Okay, so the first thing up, of course, is I'll be on Team KnitSpinFarm, and I didn't bring over my heap of fiber, but I'll be posting a picture of that on Instagram so that you can see my flasher stash there. I'm a fan of Joanna's work. She makes lovely bats, and she's recently started doing roving as well. And like Gnomespun, she uses interesting wools. And does some, she has her own sense of what color she works with and so on, and that's fun for me. In the past, with some of her bats, I've produced some really lovely, fluffy skeins of yarn with lovely texture and colors, and they've always been enjoyable. And I have a little farm of them over there. My own little corner of KnitSpinFarm that are waiting for some attention. And so I've decided that this tour, one of the things I'm going to focus on is trying to get through some of that pile. I don't know how much of it that I'll get through because it's not the only thing I want to work on, but I want to do at least some of it. And I also need to make the all-important decision of what wheel I'm going to spin it on and what's the objective for it, right? Like, is it going to be fluffy yarn or is it going to be fine yarn? I think a lot of it's going to be fluffy, at least for the bats. So we'll see. So Joanna's team is, of course, themed towards her fiber. And she has I think she has another update coming up soon. If you want to join her team and you don't have anything, you can get a few things. And usually there's a couple of things hanging out in her Etsy shop as well that you can go and have a look at. So you might be able to get some fiber right now. She's also starting a unicorn bat club. All the bats will have sparkle. It runs for 3 months. I think it's every month for 3 months, or it might be every other month for 3 shipments. I don't recall right now. I've already signed up. There's a 1 or a 2 bat option. And I'm assuming that the first set come out in July sometime, so they probably will be something that can be usable during Tour de Fleece too, but we'll see. Like I said, I personally have plenty of her stuff anyway. So the next team I'm going to be joining is Team Fibernate and Solitude Wool. Now this team has, or an incarnation of this team has been called Team Peace and Solitude in the past, and I think it was a different collaboration, but this is a collaboration between Solitude Wool and someone I don't really know, apparently called Fibernate. Sorry. A fail on my part. Anyway, and in the past, their team has kind of been a local team, like they have some spin-alongs where they get together and spin, but you're not required to join those. Although I think they have some extra prizes for those that do show up for, a certain number of those things. So that's an advantage if you live in, Loudoun County, Virginia, or thereabouts. But you're not you're not required to spin things that came from Solitude wool or Fibernate, but they do have some particular challenges which have special prices that go with them. And like, for example, one of them is if you spin, whoever spins the most different breeds during the tour is eligible for a prize, and whoever spins more than 5 non-sheep's wool fibers, and that could be anything from silk or cotton to alpaca, is eligible for a different prize. And they have a couple other prizes as well that are detailed in their team. And so I'll probably be cross-posting some things to their team since they aren't specific to Solitude wool only. But one of the things I do have to spin, or that I think I might like to spin, my agenda changes daily, is some of this lovely Romney that I got from them at Maryland Sheep and Wool. It's a Romney lamb fleece that Solitude dyed with some cochineal. And I'll probably card it. This might not even really require carding now that I've pulled some of it out. Maybe just pull out locks and do a little flick flick to open up the tips, and flick flick back here to get the little grimies out of the butt ends, and then just spin it from the lock. That's a lovely way to spin that I've done before. It's a quick prep time, and it's basically like spinning top, except that it's super easy to do. Anyway, I have a pound of that, so I want to work on that. Pardon, crunchies. I have to compulsively close this. I dropped the pen. Alright. So I'll probably be working on that. But I also have a few, like 8 fleeces laying around the room here. And they're all clean. The dirty ones are downstairs. As well as some other bits of wool and stuff I've already carded. Like there's stuff everywhere in my studio, not to mention the stuff everywhere that's in, kind of the storage area in the basement that I regularly reorganize and then pull apart again. So I haven't really decided what I'm going to spin is the moral of the story. This is a likely thing. This is, see this ball of fluff right here? This is some Navajo churro fleece, of all things. I got this fleece last year at the Maine Fiber Frolic, and I only just got around to washing it a few weeks ago. So I guess this could be another thing that I finished recently, is washing this fleece. And then after it dried, I just started pulling on it and pulling on it. This is like Wonder Fluff. Look at that. This was only a couple of minutes of like fluffing with my hands on this fiber, and there's how have I not worked with Navajo churro before? Are they all like this? I haven't the slightest idea. But as I'm playing with it, I realized, I always thought this stuff was coarse. Maybe this isn't representative of the breed. This is not coarse. It does have some guard hairs in it, but I don't see this being itchy at all. I mean, it's like a cloud. Anyway, so I might work on that. Great big fleece of that. And what else? I've got a full bag full of little hand combed with mini combs balls of fluff that I combed this stuff some years ago, and I mean years, and then never got around to spinning it for some reason. If I remember correctly, it's a CVM fleece. Yeah, the crimp looks big enough. It's not, I don't think it's not like a merino or anything. Anyway, and the intent is to spin this on the Kromski wheel right here into a lace weight. I don't know how far I'll get those because there's a lot of it. Although the way it's prepared, it'll spin real easy. So, and in order to control it, I may actually have to cross lace, come to think of it. But I would really like to go ahead and spin that and not just keep looking at it and going, I want to spin that, but it seems like a big deal. Sorry, I just noticed, I forgot about this. This is actually a sample of the same fiber. Nice little stretchy thing. See, isn't that lovely? I spun that a little chunkier than I actually planned to spin it. But it's so bouncy. So that's one of the, I want to do that. I made this fiber, blah, blah, blah. I've probably got more of the fleece in the basement. It's clean, I swear. Anyway, so that's one of the things to work on. So, on the topic of the Kromski, one of the other teams that I'm joining, I just realized I never really got through that list. One of the other teams I'm joining is going to be the Kromski North America team, and this is not the same as the Kromski wheel owners team. I think there's both, and there's definitely both things on Ravelry. There's a group for both. And I didn't actually know that until recently. I was aware of the Kromski owners group. I was not aware of the Kromski North America, like the company's group on Ravelry, until I was flipping through what teams had already been set up a few weeks ago. So I decided to join that team specifically to try to push myself to have something to post, so because I want to work on that fiber. And I don't want to get distracted. But I probably will. What else? I don't think I brought any other fiber over here to talk to you about. So there are a couple other teams though. So, the Akerworks team. Akerworks makes 3D printed bobbins for a variety of wheel types. I have Akerworks bobbins for my Hanson Crafts mini spinner, my electric wheel. And that's where the plying comes in. So I do spin directly onto the Akerworks bobbins and onto my Hanson Crafts wheel, but one of the things that I also like to do with those bobbins and that wheel is ply things. So probably what I'll do starting out in the tour is I'll have a farm of bobbins that need to be plied, and I'll whip through those in a few days on my Akerworks bobbins. And that's kind of fun because they have open patterns on the end of the bobbin, and so you can take these awesome pictures through the bobbin to see the colors, and it gives an interesting perspective on what the yarn is looking like. It makes for cool pictures. So I'll be joining their team. And then, let's see, I mentioned Kromski, and just this morning I joined the Classy Squid Fiber Company team, but I'll probably only be doing one thing with that, and that's that she just posted today some special things that she made specifically for Tour de Fleece, and I bought a pair of bats. It's a really awesome rainbow bat with a bunch of locks, and that will be going on the Clems Modern. And to make a nice big fat 8-ounce skein of something that will most likely end up on the triangle loom. So wish me luck on that. I had thought about also joining the Hilltop Cloud team because I have a lot of Hilltop Cloud fiber that I'd like to work through, but I think 5 teams is enough. And if I join another, seller themed team, I'm probably not gonna actually get through any fleeces, and that's a thing I want to do for certain. I'm a pig. So basically, starting July 1st, there will be no more knitting. I will spend all my time on spinning, most likely. Let's see. So just real quickly, I wanted to run down a list of other stuff going on that I'm aware of. There's always tons of spin-alongs and knit-alongs and craft-alongs and so on. And since, you know, I'm sure that a lot of you are not spinners, I just wanted to mention some of those things. Now, I already mentioned one, which is the sweater along in the stupid moment, Lyrical Knits group for Lyrical Knits patterns, and you can check into that and see when that ends. Other things going along, I noticed that the Wool Needles Hands podcast is doing what she's calling the Great Unravel 2017. And I don't know if that has an end date on it or not. The thread still seems to be active, and I don't remember hearing anything mentioned about an end date, but it's possible I could have missed it. But the point of that one is to get a secondhand sweater, or just a sweater that isn't working for you anymore, and specifically one that isn't felted and can be unraveled, so it can't be one that's been cut and serged, because you won't be able to take it apart. Because the point is to deconstruct the sweater, unravel it, wash it, or wash the yarn, and then craft it into something else. And I think they might specifically be doing sweaters, but if you wanted to do something like that, you could easily use that yarn for weaving or crochet or what have you. Not part of their group, but similar kind of idea is that if you have a secondhand sweater and it is felted, or it's wool and it's been cut and seamed, you can felt it further in the washing machine and turn it into stuffed toys or mittens or anything like that. So that's a fun craft to do. Anyway, so they're doing that. That's something to check out in the Wool Needles Hands group. Ninja Chickens is doing another upcycling event, which is a Steek Along. And it's to get a secondhand sweater and practice your steeking skills. And so for this one, it doesn't even really matter if it's felted or not, as long as it reasonably fits you or someone in your household. Because you're just going to practice your steeking on it, and then either sew in a zipper or put a button band on it, or do some other kind of finishing with it. So that's a way to gain skills with steeking with a sweater that you don't have a lot of time invested in if you're kind of afraid to do it with your own knits. Or it's just a fun thing to do with some upcycled sweaters. That works too. Crafternoon Treats is doing a finish along. I'm not sure how much longer that runs. I don't recall. And basically the idea is for the next few weeks or a couple of months, focus on just finishing your works in progress. Don't start anything new. Just finish the things that have been hanging around and giving you guilt that you haven't finished them. Similar theme to that, Bunniphish, I can't remember how she says her name, Crafts Podcast, group on Ravelry and the podcast, they're doing all the small things thing, and it reads to me also like a finish along, although it's not specifically. It's kind of like a combination between use up your little bits and finish things. So I don't think she has stringent rules for it. It's just kind of a group, let's get some stuff done kind of fun event that she's doing. And then LuckyJennyKnits podcast and a couple of her friends, they're hosting a new group on Ravelry called the Slow Ass Knitters Club, which I thought was the funniest thing I'd ever heard. And the point of that is that, some folks are not fast knitters, and that's okay. Either because you don't have enough time to invest in knitting, which is often a factor for lots of people, or because you just physically don't knit fast. And so they decided that they were going to band together and give each other encouragement. And I think their current challenge is to do a summer sweater, but the general idea of the group is again that social, we're all slow and we're proud kind of activity. So that's something to check out as well. Okay, so it's getting kind of on in time, and I have to shave a rabbit. So let me just quickly show you a couple of recent acquisitions and tell you about what I'm going to do with those, just for your entertainment. Okay, I found a shop recently in Concord, New Hampshire, not Massachusetts, called, I think it's called the Elegant U. I'm bad with names, sorry. Elegant U. Yeah, it's right on the tag. Awesome. Anyway, and they had some Swan's Island yarn. And Swan's Island is a local company, relatively. You can see there it says handcrafted in Maine. And I've encountered their yarns a couple of times, and it's always some lovely stuff. So this particular thing is certified organic merino. It's a sock weight yarn, although it's pretty fine stuff. It's kind of a fine fingering. I'm not sure I would recommend knitting socks with this, but I would say it would make some pretty smashing shawls and scarves and things of that nature. And this is a nice deep Merlot kind of color, and then it's got these ikat resists on it in a couple of places. So it's kind of a straightforward skein, but it's got, like I said, a very lovely texture. And I think what I'm going to do with this is weave it into a shawl. I mean, not into a shawl, into just a scarf. I think that'll be an interesting effect, kind of understated, but a little bit of pop of white here and there. And it should be super, super soft and make either a nice thing for me or a nice gift. And that is, sorry, I said it was a light fingering, and it is. It's a 525 yards. That might be the perfect amount for that one shawl I wanted to make. Focus. Okay. Also, while I was there, I got this other skein of Swan's Island, and this is, as you can see, Rambouillet and Alpaca, and it's a very puffy, soft worsted weight, and this is kind of a dark teal color, and I already had two skeins of this color and 3 skeins of this color, and I'm thinking that between them, I could probably make a pretty neat color block kind of sweater. And I've been kind of playing with ideas in my head about what that might look like. And I'm thinking about, pardon me, my phone's being a jerk. Okay. I'm thinking about something in this general. This is a pattern. What I'm about to show you is a shawl pattern by Laura Eiler. Italia, I think is how you say it. This is a paid pattern on Ravelry. And there we go. It's got a nice texture to it. You can see, I don't know if you can tell really, but it's kind of a slip stitch pattern with some garter action. And it's texturally interesting. And the way she's used color in this shawl, I think, would also translate well to a sweater. And so I'm thinking about something in those kinds of lines to use with these skeins, and I should have plenty. That's a total of 6 skeins. Obviously there won't be a lot of this, which is why I only bought 1, by the way, instead of like 5. So I don't know when I'll get around to doing that, but that's something I'd like to work on. And then finally, also at this shop, more crinkles. I got a sweet deal on some mohawk wool. See that? 1,500 yards of that stuff for $64, which is kind of shamefully a lot, but at least it wasn't full price. Anyway, this is a Merino Romley nylon blend, and it's nice. It's a nice smooth yarn. In my opinion, it could have done without the nylon, but whatever. It's a natural color, kind of a medium gray brown kind of action, and what I'm planning to make with that is a stop that telephone. A Leaves of Grass, which is a Jared Flood pattern that you can buy on Ravelry. It's a pie shawl. I should have plenty for that at 1,500 yards, even though it is a sport weight. 1,500 yards should be plenty. And it should make a nice plush shawl I think that would be lovely in the wintertime. All right, one last thing before you go, if you're interested, is a plant. Now it's not blooming, but it's an interesting looking plant. Pardon me. All right, so this is a miniature orchid species. This is not a baby. This is a full-size plant. It's called Dendrobium cucumberianum. At least that's what the tag says. The thing about the genus Dendrobium is little things like this have a tendency to get moved out of it on a regular basis. So I don't know what it's currently called actually, but my tag says Dendrobium, so we're calling it that. And you can see it's called cucumberianum because look at those fleshy little leaves. Don't they look like gherkins? They get tiny little flowers that are kind of a yellow with I think these ones have yellow with little red stripies. They're little flowers. Super cute. And it's a little corally thing. It's much easier to grow mounted, so this may end up on a plaque at some point, but right now it's in a pot. And it is blooming size. And I wanted to show you this because I know I've shown you a lot of kind of big plants, and I wanted you to see that you can, if you don't have a lot of space, you can still grow orchids. And these are actually fairly easy to grow. They're pretty adaptable, and because they're slightly succulent, they're not too sensitive to low humidity situations either. I've never had a problem with these things. There's a couple of different species that are kind of similar to this they range in size a little bit. They tend to be, I should say, Dendrobium has a lot of different species in it. I think the count is something like, is it 3,000? Some ridiculous number. And they vary a lot. So although there are a lot of easy to grow Dendrobiums, they don't all look like this. Some of them are enormous. So you need to be aware of what you're getting. But this little guy is full grown. So that's cucumberianum. And very similar to that, I have Dendrobium rigidum. That's also blooming size. And you can see this one lives on a little plaque. And I don't know if you can see that little thing right there? That's new growth coming out. So I'm not sure I'm giving this enough light because it seems to me this should have bloomed by now. And the length of time that I've had it, it hasn't. But it's growing. So I just need to find another spot. Anyway, and again, super easy to grow, very fleshy little leaves, real tiny. If you've got a kitchen window that gets bright light, just put a little hook in there and hang that thing on there. You can just say, hi, little buddy. Water every couple of days. Super easy. All right. My computer tells me that the space is running out, so that's enough for today. Thanks for coming by. Come see me in the Ravelry group at Drop Stitches Podcast, or leave a comment right here on YouTube or on the blog. Again, I'm Sapphire Child on Ravelry and Julia.Redman on Instagram. Take care.